Once again, good afternoon to you all. And I now call this annual general meeting of the Manchester Co-operative Credit Union 1977 Limited to order. Let us stand for the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. It is found on page 2 of your booklet. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is secret pardon, where there is doubt, faith, where there is despair, hope, where there is darkness, light, and where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Amen. Lovely prayer. I now invite the Secretary to tell us if we are duly constituted to continue with our meeting.
Good afternoon, members. The meeting is duly constituted as there are 380 members present.
So we are duly constituted at 4:50. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. I again invite the Secretary to read the notice of meeting.
Notice of annual general meeting. Notice is hereby given of the 43rd annual general meeting of the Manchester Co-operative Credit Union 1977 Limited at the Gulf View Hotel Auditorium, 5.5 Caledonia Road, Mandeville, Manchester, on Wednesday, August 7th, 2019, commencing at 4 p.m. sharp. Althea Scott Jones, Secretary.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Fellow cooperators, on behalf of the Board of Directors, management, staff, and volunteers, I extend a warm welcome to all of you. We are very happy that you find the time to join us at this AGM. Of note is that we are having this AGM a little later in the year than normal. However, it is for good reasons. Having for the first time to engage a different method of calculating provisions for impairment using the International Accounting Standard, IFRS 9, we made sure that we get it right. We are pleased with the outcome, and hopefully you will be pleased as well with what the financial report and in general the organization's performance reflect for the year.
I'd like also to welcome any first-timer to our AGM. I'm sure we have some first-timers here. Welcome. And to welcome those who have been with us over the years, volunteers, and those who constantly support our AGM. I take this opportunity as well to specially welcome to the Manchester Cooperative Credit Union family our new finance manager, Mr. Orlando Dawson. And I'd ask him to stand. He's on the platform. Welcome, Mr. Dawson, to the family. He joined the staff in October 2018. I also extend special welcome to Ms. Rosemary Henry, Kuna Mutual Group, and she is Vice President of Risk and Compliance. I also welcome Ms. Monique Davis from the same company. Can you identify yourselves? Over there. Give them the usual warm Manchester welcome. I also take pleasure in welcoming Mrs. Cheryl Ramsey Brown. She's from the Department of Cooperatives and Friendly Societies, Senior Inspection Officer, and with her we have Miss Carl Martin, Miss Shoy Tomlinson, and Clark? Miss Clark as well, from the Department of Cooperatives and Friendly Society. We have on the platform from our auditing firm, UHY, Dodge & Chartered Accountant, Mr. Dawkin Brown. Welcome. Give them the usual warm welcome. We have with us from QNet, Mr. Carlton Bartley. Mr. Carlton Bartley, oh, he's over there. Give him a warm welcome. And also we have with us from the League, Mrs. Fiona Reynolds. Sometimes I don't remember the exact title, and I don't want to give you the wrong title. But welcome. Happy to have you with us, as usual, Mrs. Reynolds. Those are the special invited persons that we have present so far. At this time, I would like to introduce to you the persons on the platform. We have our Secretary, Mrs. Althea Scott-Jones, First Vice President, Mr. Alexander Bourne, Assistant Secretary, Mrs. Diana Tomlinson, Assistant Treasurer, Mr. Stalin Insang, and Director, Ms. Marsha Dare. In the back row, we have our Treasurer, Mr. Stalin, Mr. Nicholas Pence. And we have a space up front when you are ready. We have, as introduced earlier, Mr. Dawson, our finance manager. We have our general manager, Ms. Michelle Ambersley, director, Mr. Jeffrey Sharp, director, Mr. Cleveland Robinson, and we introduced Mr. Brown earlier on from the auditing firm. Give them all a warm welcome. I now move to apologies. I have one apology here from Mrs. Joan Thompson, General Manager, JCIA. She will not be with us today. Also, apology from our second Vice President, Reverend Joan Simit, who is off the island. Thank you. Those are the apologies so far. At this time, I invite you to observe a moment of silence in recognition of those members who passed away during the year. And the list of those who passed away during the year is on page 126. I invite you to stand as we observe a moment of silence for those who passed away during the year, those of our members. Please stand, everyone. May their souls rest in peace and light perpetual shine upon them. Amen. Thank you. I would like also to draw your attention to the parliamentary rules of order, which are to be observed during the meeting. And these rules of order are on page 129. So it's very important that we observe the parliamentary rules of order as we proceed with our meeting. At this time, I invite the secretary to come forward and give us the corrections in the booklet, and also to take us through the minutes of the last annual general meeting. Mrs. Scott Jones.
I'll draw your attention to the corrections that should be made as was picked up or as has been picked up from the booklet. Can you turn to page 9? Page 9 of the booklet on the representation at affiliated organization. The second to last sentence, Cuba is capitalized. It should be a capital C and the other letters common. So it's capital C, common letter UBA. For page 14, turn your attention to page 14. On the credit committee report, that's page 14. Credit Committee report, introduction, the fourth to last sentence, change and also force us, the aggressively, to, and also forced us to aggressively seek new borrowers. So you're there? Okay. And I draw your attention to 104, that's page 104. Page 104, where we have under subcredit committee, presently serving, Christopher Time, should be Mr. and not Mrs. So you are to correct the Mrs. at both sections, where you have presently serving and also under nominated. Those are the corrections that have been identified so far under the booklet. I will now move to the minutes, which was circulated online and made available to all ahead of the meeting, this meeting. And the minutes covers from pages 6 to page 20. That's pages 6 to 20. Can I have a motion for the minutes to be taken as read?
Just for clarity,
Can you
Mrs.
state your name, sorry? Because
Glenroy
the
Griffiths.
minute says recording
Yeah.
all that has been said.
Name is Glenroy Griffiths. Ask that you turn to page 105. And for clarity, Mrs. Claudette Griffiths Mackenzie, status and term, I'd like it to be clarified there.
Okay, so we are inserting under status new. Continuing, and the term is 1 year. So an insertion to be made then.
There's one more, I'm told, on page 104. Nigel Reed. Credit Committee, 104.
Our president will also assist with the response.
She was on the committee last time, wasn't she? Claudette Griffiths, no. So this one is not right. What I gave is not right. Yes.
We have done the correct thing. That's continuing.
Over 1 year. Okay. And then who?
104.
103.
I am going to crave your indulgence to check the records before I give you the insertions. So it can be taken when we get to the nominating committee's report. Thank you for observing. Take it there.
So I'll return. Can I have a motion for the minutes to be taken as read? Derek Williams. Derek Williams. And is there a seconder?
Pansy Taylor Wilson.
All those who are in favor of the confirmation of the minutes with corrections, please indicate. Aye. Can you say aye? Those who are against? The ayes have it. So we will now move to further corrections, page by page, for the minutes. Starting from page 6. Are there any observed corrections? Page 7. Page 8, page 7. That's someone's hand over there.
The second paragraph says, requested an adjournment of the standing order.
Can you be specific, second paragraph on the Board of Directors report? What? That's page 8? Page 7.
You
Oh,
have
yeah.
requested an adjournment of the standing order for approximately 40 minutes.
Okay.
Couldn't have that.
Okay. Approximately 4. So we have noted that.
No. Note the last sentence. The general motion was moved to continue the meeting. So it was not accepted.
Okay. It was not accepted. Okay. So that. Thanks. Page 8. Page 9.
Board of Directors report.
Can you state your name again?
Name is Burton, Thomas Burton.
Thanks.
Second paragraph, penultimate line. The company was scheduled to provided
I'm not seeing. Page 9. We are at page 9. You're back
No,
at
I am
page.
on page 8.
Oh, you're at page 8.
Board of
Okay.
Directors report,
Okay.
second paragraph.
Yes.
And you said CM Global was selected to provided.
Okay. Thanks. To provide. Okay. Thanks much. So we'll make that correction. Page 9. And we move to page 10. Correction. Page 11. Yes.
Second paragraph, penultimate line. Page 11.
Yes.
He added that the merger does have to be with St. Elizabeth.
Oh, that's correction. I think I made that. All right. So the added that the merger does not. So we insert not. I thought I had done that. It was, yeah, right at page 11, the second paragraph, line, the third to last line. He added that the merger, we have does have, insert not. So it does not have. Any other corrections for page 11? So we move to page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Page 18. Page 19. And finally, page 20. So I take it that there are no more corrections that have been identified. Can I have a motion to confirm the minutes with corrections? State your name.
Anne-Marie Roach.
Clifton Price. Price. Seconded by
Anne-Marie Roach.
Anne-Marie Rowe. Rowe. That's Anne-Marie Rowe. Who seconded?
Anne-Marie Roach.
Oh, Anne-Marie Rowe. I'm looking at Anne-Marie Rowe. That's not the Anne-Marie. Okay. Can that person stand for us? Oh, thank you, thanks. Right. All those who are in favor of the confirmation of the minutes with corrections, let me hear you say aye. And those who are against, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. We will now move to the matters arising, and I will hand over to the President.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. There was a stand here earlier for the mic. Now it has disappeared. Thank you for taking us through corrections in the booklet and the minutes to confirmation. Before I proceed, I have another apology here from Mrs. Vivienne Grant. She will be absent, and she's a member of the Credit Committee. Now we move to matters arising from the minutes, and we will start page 6. Don't think anything would be there to question. Page 7. Matters arising.
Beresford South.
Yes.
Well, the question that I would really want to raise is not on page 7, but it has to do with the booklet. And in your introductory statement, you stated that not the booklet, the AGM was basically due in May. But for good reasons, you say, it was postponed until today. Now, the good reasons you say that your explanation would have basically pushed back the work of the credit union and shortened the life of the new board. And that is of particular concern to me and should be of concern to the members. I would have preferred if the board and management say double their efforts and get what was there to be done in a shorter time, using more of the credit union time, and allow the AGM to go on in May rather than months after. Secondly, before I say, the booklet now, you're saying that it was online electronically, but how many of us have access to go online and so on? I believe it is the responsibility of the credit union to ensure that the booklets be made available at least 2 weeks to the members, that they can go through and come here properly informed to participate in the general meeting here.
Thank you very much, Mr. South.
Not finished, sir. I came...
You have a third one?
No, just to reinforce what I'm saying here. I came here and waiting for the booklet. 2:30, I saw them coming out of a van. Unacceptable. 2:30. Now it gives us limited time to inform ourselves. I don't like this at all. And I believe, and too, last year, I saw, when I look at the minutes here, that that one was late as well. And promise was made that better would be done this year. Worse. This is not good enough.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. South, for those observations. I would answer Mr. South's concerns before I take another question, even if it's on the same point. So Mr. Banton, let me respond. The first one, in terms of the AGM taking place at this time instead of in May, was not solely on the part of the credit union not having the ability to produce the reports. However, I did mention that having for the first time to engage a new method of calculating provisions for impairments, it took some time. We engaged a third party, ECM Global, to help to calculate the provisions for impairment. They started to work from last year on the methodologies and request a number of things: historical records and other things, in order to come up with an accurate and workable provision. Now, I must say that it's a painstaking task, which required the input of staff and board working overtime to provide the necessary information that ECM Global needed. As you might recall, as of the 1st of January 2018, provisioning for impairment would have been calculated differently from what happened in the past. Now, had we tried to have the AGM in May, using what information we had in terms or the models that we had in terms of calculating the provision, all our surplus would have been wiped out. Because we'll have to assign most of the surplus that we had for 2018 into provisioning. Now that we have worked with ECM Global and they have designed the model using all the information that they requested and that we provided, we are much better off at this time. Now, in terms of the work of the credit union, that did not stop. And although we didn't have the AGM then, it's an administrative year, and it would have been necessary for the members of the volunteer corps to continue with the work until we have AGM. I can recall we have had AGMs later than May, but that was years ago. No excuse, but we have had it. We hope that when the financials are presented and the other reports are presented, members will see the wisdom in not having the AGM in May and put ourselves in a kind of tight situation. We also, members, had to work with our auditing firm, because this is a new thing that we entered into. And it's not just us, but our auditing firm as well. Also, we had to work with our software providers, Soft Solutions. We now use Universal from Soft Solutions, and they have to synchronize with ECM Global. This is not something that we could push aside. It is regulation, and it is a worldwide requirement. So I think we took the appropriate steps to make sure when we report to you, we can report things of substance. Mr. Sauter has a follow-up.
Point well taken. But my concern now, will it affect the life of the new board? Seeing that, yes, what I want to find out is, seeing now that we are running, say, about 4 months behind, and now this new board will be put in place, say just a few days' time. Will the life of this board be affected in any way? Will they be required to serve for a shorter period of time?
I cannot answer that one. The rule states from AGM to AGM. That is provided in the rules. So the present board would have been in place at the end of the last AGM, and the rules allow for the board to continue until the next AGM. If, let me not suppose. Now, following up on your second question, now you can see why the booklet is late. Because we had to get it right. We had to wait on ECM Global to say this is the amount that you are to provide for impairments. We work with our auditors. What they presented to us before, as I said, would have wiped out almost all our surplus. And I have my auditor here. So that is why, and let me put on record, we apologize for the late distribution of the booklet. But on the other hand, we were constrained to, because with all the activities, we didn't want to go beyond this week for the AGM. So that puts a noose around our neck, but it didn't get too tight. So thanks, Mr. South, for raising that. Very pertinent, very important. Thank you. Yes, Mr.
Bantam. Yes, Mr. Chairman, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As Mr. South touched on an issue with the AGM, and you really share some light to it, but doubts were there. And I think it would be appropriate for the members should know what's going on in the credit union. It shouldn't hide behind the screen. We should inform that AGM would delay. You understand, sir? I think it's not the board of directors only have talk in the credit union. Members have talk in the credit union. So doubts are out there on the AGM.
Well, I tell you something. The members have the talk. I agree with you, it's the members who have the talk. And we are, as board members, just your servants. But we do have the responsibility to ensure that the direction the credit union is going is correct and is a sound one. So we have that responsibility as directors and management and staff. Doubts are there, and knowing the fickleness of the environment, doubts could have been still there had we sent out a notice to say AGM is postponed. There could be doubts. So
Now we
we
know.
understand.
We would know.
We
would
understand.
know that AGM was
We could not give you the detailed information, but we understand, Mr. Bantan.
When we walk in the credit union and we ask questions, when will be AGM? Everybody you ask is tight lips, nobody answer, nobody have given you any information. And I think that is a weak spot. We are members, we are people. I'm no disrespect to the board, you know. Please make that clear. No disrespect to the board.
And management.
And management. But members come first. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. And we make a note of it. Certainly. Thank you. Can we move on now? We are on page 7, matters arising. Matters arising, page 7. I did allow for that question and response because it's very important. Page 8, matters arising. Page 9, yes. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Page 18. Page 19. Page 20. Mr. South? Page? Okay. Page 11. Yes, I permit.
It has to do with the merger of Manchester Co-op with St. Elizabeth. I raised it here before last. It came up last year, and it was discussed at some time. I hear you say that a proposal for MC.
Exactly identify the exact paragraph and line.
Third to last paragraph on page 11.
Third to last paragraph?
Yes.
Page 11. Under.
Mr. South move a proposal
Yes.
for MCCU to resume talks with St. Elizabeth Co-operative Credit Union with a view to merge. So I would like to know if any further discussion was done in this regard.
Yes. Immediately after our AGM last year, we wrote back to St. Elizabeth indicating that we are willing to resume the talks on merger with them. It took some time before we got a response from them, Madam GM? Yes. While we were waiting for that response, it is our understanding that they were having talks with another credit union. And they wrote to us during that time to indicate that they were in discussion with this credit union. And if my memory serves me right, if those talks with that credit union did not materialize in a merger, then we would be engaged again. That talk with the other credit union materialized in a merger with St. Elizabeth.
But last year, if my memory serves me right, that was the argument that was put forward. That, and in addition, it was suggested that St. Elizabeth would have preferred to have that discussion with Manchester Co-op rather than the other entity. So where you are now, that's where we were last year. So I would expect to hear something new on this merger issue from St. Elizabeth.
Well, I can't influence what St. Elizabeth does. Are we here? We wrote to them immediately after AGM, indicating that we are willing to resume the merger talks. And they have merged with somebody. So they said that they were in discussions on merger with another credit union. And so, having written to them, having got a response like that, there was nothing else that we could do.
Before I sit, what I would say, and I think we have to learn from this. And I'm a bit disappointed because I was all for merger. I believe that a credit union, or not even a credit union, an entity in this day and age will be stronger and will be able to move forward with merger. And so, St. Elizabeth showed up the interest, but for us, we lost. We were hesitant. We went on back pedal, and we suffer as a result of that. I would suggest that in future, we move with speed. We can't be so slow in this day and age when people are so aggressive. We need to approach these things with a certain level of aggression. We are
Yes.
more laid back as an entity.
Yes, thank you, Mr. South, and we noted. But it is not a given that merger will make both organizations stronger and better. That's not a given. Also, we cannot rush into a merger. We have to do due diligence. A very important aspect of merging is having due diligence done. And we were in the process of doing due diligence. So I understand. And we are still looking if we can find the right bride. Then maybe we can have a marriage later on. I hear you, Mr. Banton. Is it on the same topic? Okay, I'll take the final question on this.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I am a part of the St. Elizabeth Cooperative Credit Union. And where they call us members for merger, and they mention at the meeting that they wrote Manchester Cooperative Credit Union because they don't know that I am a member here before I am a member there. And they told us that Manchester Cooperative Credit Union never interested to merge with them. So then find somebody else. I don't sorry. I glad. Thank you very much.
I will not go into a discussion on that. We here, and we rest it there. Thank you very much. We now come to the end of matters arising. So thank you very much for that. Very robust, and I like when we ask the questions. Yes. And I like when you put us to task. Yes. Another apology here from Mrs. Ruthann Smile Smikle. She will be absent. She's the chairman of the supervisory committee. I now move to board report. Are we ready? Fellow cooperators, it gives me great pleasure to present the report of the Board of Directors for the Manchester Co-operative Credit Union 1977 Limited for the year 2018. Introduction. The Board of Directors of the Manchester Co-operative Credit Union Limited uses this medium to account for the performance of the credit union during the year 2018. The lending sub-industry of the financial services sector was robust in 2018. This coincided with an overall improvement in the country's economy. The Bank of Jamaica Credit Condition Survey for December 2018 supports this thesis, with data suggesting that the private sector borrowing continued to grow in 2018. This also applied to the borrowing activity of individuals, with small and medium-sized enterprises garnering more attention from lenders. On the financial scene, however, the low interest rate regime continued, and some of our targets were to a certain degree affected. As you know, low interest means for us less income. However, we were able to do well. And it is good for the member when there is low interest. We continued on a trajectory of many achievements throughout the year. This has been the result of the dedicated work of our staff and the fervent support of you, our members, and our volunteers. Without you borrowing, we cannot grow. Without you saving, we cannot grow. As a result, we have experienced exceptional growth in our loans portfolio in a still recovering economy that has its own challenges of reduced interest rates, increased individualized credit risk analysis, and increased competition from traditional commercial banks and the non-traditional microfinancing institutions. The discussions and preparations for the regulation of the credit unions by the BOJ continued in earnest. We are yet to hear of a date when the regulations will kick in. As well, the readiness for the new International Accounting Standards, IFRS 9, which was outsourced to a third-party entity called ECM Global. These are some of the things that we have been able to focus on. Performance overview. The following table gives a detailed performance of the activities for the period ending December 2018. And you can see the table. Savings grew to 4.057 billion. Net loans, 3.307 billion. Total assets grew to 5.401 billion. Institutional capital, billion, grew to $806 million. And we had a surplus of $87 million. And there is a note there which stated that the defined benefit obligation increased from 211.82 million to 265.34 million, due largely to a reduction in the discount rate from 8% to 7%. The balance sheet asset thus decreased from 70.29 million to 43.74 million because of the increase in the defined benefit obligation. Defined benefit obligation is mainly attributable to economic conditions of the country. I think we can get some further clarification on that. Administration and human resources. Personnel. Training. The credit union conducted or participated in approximately 37 training sessions. This consisted of both internal and external training for employees and volunteers throughout the year. We believe that training is very important for the efficient operation of the credit union. That's why we were engaged in 37 such training sessions. Personnel, continue. Some of these sessions are listed there, and we would have had them in our booklets as well. And of note is IFRS 9 implementation seminar. We had to attend many of those training sessions, both at the league level and with our auditors and our provider. The others are listed there. We continue with personnel, occupational health and safety measures. As you might be aware, this act is coming soon, and if we are operating in a sick environment, then, or in a sick building, then we would be in some trouble. And so we have to ensure that our building is healthy and our environment is healthy, and so our staff will be healthy to carry out the work. So the Human Resource Department was charged with responsibility for facilities management in January 2018. And since then, the department has undertaken several projects, including, but not limited to the following: installation of disability parking in Mandeville, redesigning of emergency exit, Mandeville, modification of disabled arm and ATM vestibule to accommodate the disabled in Christiana, installation of a chain link fence around the Christiana branch. Very important, because something was happening there, and some staff members were feeling the effect of what was happening. And renovation of the guardhouse, Mandeville, and chair replacement at both locations. Chair replacement, you might consider, oh, just replacing a chair. It's not just that. We had to get the right fit chair for the staff so that they do not have ill effects. Continuing on personnel promotion, recruitment and separation, There were changes to the staff complement during the year as follows: 3 promotions, 1 relocation, 6 recruitment, and 4 separations. Policy review. Now, the organization is supposed to be policy driven. So anything that we do, we should be able to refer to it in a policy, why we carry out such action. So we are in the process of developing new policies and amending existing policies. And in 2018, we reviewed the General Credit Policy, Code of Ethics and Business Conduct Policy, Occupational Safety and Health Policy, Social Media Policy, Sexual Harassment Policy, Employee Assistance Program Policy, Succession Planning Policy, Whistleblower Protection Policy, Enterprise Risk Management Policy, and developing risk registers. And these policies, some of them are huge, and they take a lot of time to develop. Sales and marketing activities. The sales and marketing department did a lot during the year. Here we have the products and services which they promoted, partner plan that was promoted throughout the year, and I think it's benefiting our members and the organization itself. We had a number of loan promotions. Property loan. We create 30-second television commercial. We had a Spot the Door campaign. That one was interesting. We have Dream Wheels Auto Loan. We hosted several auto shows incorporating new and used dealers. We are partnering with these dealers. We have the Christmas cash loan offered during the year to coincide with the Yuletide season. We have moved loan amount from $50,000 to $200,000. We have reduced share requirement to 10%. We have the term limit of 12 months and interest rate of 16% for those loans. Continuing, we ensure that the face of the credit union is seen in the public. We have Financial Fitness Month activities in April, Labor Day project in May. We have the 67th anniversary activities on May 29. Town hall meetings throughout the year. The Sydney Carter Scholarship and Bursaries, GSAT bursaries, youth competitions. All these things help us to be seen out there. We continue with our public relations. We have the awarding of Sydney Carter bursaries. 6 tertiary level students were awarded bursaries from the Sydney Carter Scholarship Fund to commence the 2018-19 academic year. And you have the students listed there. Collectively, the students receive a total of $700,000 in financial assistance. I think that needs a round of applause. Continuing, awarding of GSAT bursaries, soon to be called PEP bursaries. 20 students received GSAT bursaries valued at $20,000 each. That is students leaving primary schools into high schools. And one additional student was selected to receive the Jamaica Co-operative Credit Union League bursary for the parish of Manchester. So in effect, 21 students received bursaries to start their school year. Students were selected based on a combination of need, savings pattern, and academic performance. And parents who are here with children in primary school, and in particular, those schools where the credit union is going to conduct savings, I encourage you to make your child become a member of the youth saving portfolio. Continuing with public relations, we host a number of youth competitions. Essay competition, and we congratulate Grovetown Primary School on winning that competition. Poster competition, we congratulate Knox Junior School. And the debating competition, we congratulate Mayday High School on winning that competition. Give them a round of applause. International Credit Union Week was observed from October 14 to 19, 2018. The theme was find your platinum lining in credit unions. And activities completed throughout the week included our church service, soup and soap outreach, our member appreciation day for Christiana and Mandeville, and movie evening. You see, we try to take care of the total being. So we even include movie. In December, we had the Employee Awards Banquet for Manchester Credit Union. Now, formally, we usually have the Mid-Island chapter of credit unions awards banquet. But with mergers around us, Manchester Credit Union was left standing on its own, proudly standing on its own. And so we took the decision to recognize our employees. So we have our own awards function. And it was hosted on December 15th, and awards were presented to the respective employees as follows: the Credit Officer of the Year, Christiana Samantha Johnson, Mandeville, Nadine Ricketts. Top Teller of the Year, Christiana Natalie Simpson, Mandeville, Anna K. Bartley. Employee of the Year, Chantel Jemison. And Branch of the Year, Christiana Branch. Give them a round of applause. All those who received awards. And for Christiana to emerge the Branch of the Year. League AGM and Convention. The League AGM was held from May 17 to 20th, 2018. It was held at the Rose Hall Hotel and Spa in Montego Bay. And Manchester was represented by its delegates, alternate delegates, committee members, and selected staff members. And it was a very good AGM and convention. CCCU Annual International Convention and AGM, the 61st Annual International Convention and 47th AGM of CCCU was held from June 15 to 20 in Port of Spain Trinidad and Tobago. The theme for that convention was credit unions, the power to change the future. And certainly we have the power to do that. We were represented by board members and staff members at that convention in Trinidad. Social community outreach, a total of $530,283 was paid out to various persons and organizations from our social outreach provisions. But there we are providing help to individuals and community organizations. Operational efficiency project. You know, it's very important for us to be efficient, and in the age of technology, it's going to require us, young, middle-aged, and older ones, to become technologically savvy, because that's where we are going. It's not a question. We have automated the generation of delinquency letters. We have automated the write-off loan process. We have automated the generation of financial statements to the universal system, which I spoke of earlier. We successfully started sharing our data with the credit bureau called the Credit Information System, CIS. You know that we have to be very alert. And so you as our members too have to be very prudent and ensure that wherever you borrow, you repay. Because we have credit bureaus in Jamaica, and these credit bureaus get your credit information. So we are able to look at persons' credit history and determine what kind of loans, if any, we are able to give such persons. And other institutions, financial and non-financial, are doing the same thing. JACUL's initiatives. JACUL is leading initiatives that started in 2018, and they should be completed in 2019 as follows. EMV chip technology, that is for your cards. Enhance Access Plus functionality, incorporating MasterCard. Direct salary deposit and interconnectivity online and in-branch service. So by the end of this year, we should be there. Started in 2018. I now move to management retreat. Our management retreat was held in December under the theme, Realignment of our Strategic Goals. Focus was to build on the 5-year strategic plan previously formulated in 2017. And the follow-up was to assess the credit union's competitive strategy using the PCG matrix, identification of competitors, a review of our products and services offering, and the identification of the competitive advantage of the credit union. This we did, and we are working on these strategic initiatives. Conclusion. The highly competitive financial landscape and a more informed membership make it imperative that the structures, policies, and general operations of the Manchester Co-operative Credit Union 1977 Limited keep apace as much emphasis as being placed on technology, thus ensuring that increased efficiency experience. The Board of Directors recognizes the challenging environment and the necessary sacrifice needed to be made by all in order for the institution to continue its thrust of people helping people. The challenges are many, but being people of faith, we can rest assured that with God at the helm, we will remain one of the most financially sound institutions in Jamaica. In continuing conclusion, we say thanks to the entire management team, all categories of staff members, all volunteers, all other supporters of our work, the League, the COP department, the auditors, our bankers, and most of all, you, our members. Thank you very much. That's the end of the board report. We continued with reports, and I now invite the treasurer to present the treasurer's report. And after his report, oh, sorry. I was going too fast. Questions on the board's report? Any question? Yes, I have a question across there.
Beresford South.
Can you, oh, Mr. South is? All right.
Beresford South.
Yes.
Yes, I must commend the board on a comprehensive report. I think it was well done. But I have about 3 or so concerns. One, I see page 22, policy review. You say in 2018, the board of directors approved the following. I'm looking, and you say that the board, or the credit union rather, is policy driven. Well, if it is policy driven, I believe here in 2018, you would develop on the policies that were in place rather than formulating new ones. I would expect to see development because it is policy driven. I take it that these policies would be in place, and as time go on, you would see the need to improve on what is already in place. That's one of the concerns.
Thank you. Can I take them one by one?
Yes.
Yes. Concern is noted. As I mentioned, it takes a lot of time and effort to even complete one policy. Some of these policies that are new had to be developed because of regulation requirements. For example, occupational health and safety and health policy, that one had to be developed. It's a new policy. We had to research. We had to get help from many sources in developing that policy. I think that policy has about 50 odd pages. And it takes time. New policy, and we have to get it right. Social media policy, also important. Sexual harassment policy, regulation. We have to develop it. Whistleblower protection policy, regulation. We have to develop risk management policies. And regulation, we had to develop risk registers. I think we have about 6 risk registers. It's about 6. And we have to go through these with a fine teeth comb. And I tell you, with all the effort, they might not be perfect, but they're up for amendment. Now, existing policies are also being looked at. And as we speak, there are other policies that are being looked at. We have about 30 odd policies that we need to review or develop. And we are trying to get there. We have to seek outside help for some of them. For example, a business plan, which is a requirement by regulation, we will have to outsource that because it requires a lot of technical input. So some we will outsource, some we will work at the local level and research to develop them and amend them. Thanks for the note. Yes.
Yes. The other one has to do with visibility of the credit union. And I think in this highly competitive society, the credit union indeed needs to be visible. So I applaud you for that. Mm-hmm. But with regards now to the whole business of getting in new members, and what I realize is that a number of the youths are migrating. You spoke here of the bursaries and the scholarship. When they go to these various institutions, what does the credit union do at the end of graduation to sort of insist that these quality people come back, not only to serve, but to be a part of the credit union family? We need to focus on that. And then now, just before I sit, last year I can remember a gentleman spoke of the Sydney Carter, and that alongside Sydney Carter, there was a gentleman that gave sterling service to the credit union. And I say, lest we forget. And he suggested that we should include him in some way in the life of the credit union. I speak of none other than Mr. Ricketts. I think some place must be found in the scheme of things to include him, because one may tend to think that Sydney Carter is a gentleman, but alongside him were others that gave sterling service so that we could be here today.
Yes.
So we should not forget them.
Thank you very much, Mr. South. Very good points. And in terms of the youth, we at the board level and the management and staff are concerned just as you are. We need to retain and attract them. And so we are looking at how we are going to do it. There are some situations that sometimes we have no control over. For example, the GM is going to make her input.
Okay, so we have recognized and we are concerned about the aging population of our membership, and therefore we have placing more emphasis on our social media, on our internet platform. And so the presentation from Mr. Bartlett before, his presentation and those efforts to ensure that our card is accepted worldwide, along with efforts of having more visibility on social media, because the millennials, they prefer to interact on these platforms. And so that's why we have chosen to emphasize on technology.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam GM. And the other point you raised was, just remind me.
Mr. Ricketts.
Oh, yes. Yes. We had that in mind to highlight some of those long-time stalwarts this year. But unfortunately, we did not get to it with the number of things, and in particular IFRS 9 that we had to focus on. I cannot pledge what the next board will do, but I am hoping that next year, when we have our AGM, we will have highlights. We'll have recognized those persons in our AGM. Thank you. Yes. Yes, your name, please.
Katrina Bailey Green. Just earlier in your presentation, when you were looking at the performance overview, probably just a correction, I noticed that the institutional capital right, you had on the screen 886, whereas in our booklet it says 769. Now for me, looking at that and comparing it with the current period, it would be different in terms of being a reduction as opposed to what's in the book would be an increase. So I'm not sure which one is actually correct. So I'm just pointing that out. On the performance overview. So on the 2017.
Institutional capital.
Right.
Under 2017, 769.
Right, but in your presentation on the screen, it said 886. 886.
Right,
so
or
there was a disparity there.
806 in the booklet.
The figures are different in terms of a decrease as opposed to an increase.
Well, it would have been, it would have been an increase over the 769.
If this is what is correct.
But 866 would still be higher.
No, that's 2017. So it would have meant that in 2018 there would have been less. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay. That's a typo. So it is 769. Yeah. Thank you for that observation. We have increased the institutional capital. Yes.
Everton Walters. On the performance overview, I'm not certain if the figures are in million or billion. I'm hearing you say billion, but I'm seeing million here.
Okay. Savings, billion. Net loans, billion. Assets, billion. But institutional capital, million. And surplus, million. Thank you. Here's another question over there.
Concerning social and community outreach.
Not hearing.
Concerning social and community outreach, I don't.
Name, please.
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie,
Yes.
give us
I-
your last name, please,
Roach.
for the record.
Roach. I don't know how you go ahead to get the people on the outreach programs, but I'm just saying that the next time you're giving outreach, could you put Magally Primary and Magally High School on it for me, please? They do need some support.
I hear the plea. We respond mainly to requests. So when we get a request from an individual or from an organization, a school, hospital, or any other community organization, we respond. That's how we respond. So if there is a dire need, members can request. And we look at the request and go through and determine the level of contribution if we decide to make a contribution. Thank you. Any other?
The next time I'm asking you to start utilize this outreach.
Through your requests in writing. Okay. Any other? Yes, I see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Renford Douglas,
Thank you.
and I'm on page 28. Your management retreat. You did a beautiful job of telling us what was, or even what is. But in future, it would help if you told us some of the directions, the strategic directions that you plan to move this credit union into. What are some of the strategic goals? What are the items that you're working on? Is it increased membership? Is it increased technology? It would be useful if you would let us know. Thank you.
All of the above. Plus more. The 2017 realignment of our strategic goals included is speaking to, well, it's 2017 and we reviewed it in 2018. So the goals for 2017 would have been what we reviewed in 2018 to continue. I think I would invite the GM to just mention a few more of those strategic goals.
All right, so these goals are: one, increasing our membership by 5% year over year; two, improve the technology that we currently have; one, to increase cybersecurity; two, to attract the youth membership; three, to provide an easier way of doing business using technology. Thirdly, hold on. Yes, we have a goal to maintain institutional capital. All right, to attain a minimum 20% increase in member share of wallet while improving their quality of life. Increase the product usage, and to achieve average 5% growth in active membership through development and enhancement of adequate promotions of product and services. Yes, those are some.
Thank you, Madam GM. those are some of the goals that we are working on. Any other question? Thank you very much. There be no more question. Can I have a motion for the adoption of the board report? Moved by Mr. Everton Walters. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Mr. Astley Scott. All in favor, say aye. Any against? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Now, I think I am correct now in inviting the treasurer to come and present the treasurer's report, after which he will invite the auditor to present the financials, the audited statement, after which he will present the appropriation of surplus. So you do those things in order. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, fellow corporators. Okay, so at this time I would like to invite Mr. Dawkins Brown, who is the representative from our independent auditors, Crowhorth, Jamaica, to now present the independent auditor's report for the financial year, December 31st, 2018. Mr. Brown?
Thank you. Good afternoon, members. I'm Dawkins Brown. I'm the managing partner of Co-operative, and this afternoon I'm here to present to you the financial statement for the period ending 31st December, as contained in your report. I think it's page 30, but our focus will be on page 39 onward. I'll give you a second to find. I'm going to ask for your indulgence. It's a relatively structured report in keeping with regulations, and while at times I can abbreviate the report, I think it is important for me to present the entire report. Report of independent auditors, so the Registrar of Cooperatives and Friendly Societies, the Manchester Cooperative Credit Union 1977 Limited. Opinion. We have audited the financial statement of Manchester Cooperative Credit Union 1977 Limited, which comprised the statement of financial position of the 31st December 2018, statement of comprehensive incomes, statement of changes in equity and cash flow for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statement, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the credit union's financial statement give a true and fair view of the financial position of the credit union of the 31st December 2018 and of its financial performance and its cash flow for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS. Basis of opinion. We have conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing, ISAs. Our responsibility under those standards are further described in our auditor's responsibility for the audit of financial statement section of our report. We are independent of the credit union in accordance with the International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, IBAS Code, and we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the ISWAP Code. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Other information. Management is responsible for other information. The other information comprise information included in the annual report, but does not include the financial statement and our auditor's report thereon. The annual report is expected to be available to us after the date of this auditor's report. Our opinion on the financial statement does not cover the other information, and we do not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the financial statement, our responsibility is to read the other information, and in doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the financial statement or our knowledge obtained in the audit or otherwise appear to be materially misstated. If, based on the work we have performed, we conclude that there is a material misstatement of this other information, we are required to report that fact. Responsibility of management and those charged with governance for the financial statement. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement in accordance with IFRS and for such internal controls as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statement, management is responsible for assessing the credit union's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing, as applicable, matters relating to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management either intend to liquidate the credit union or to cease the operation or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the credit union's financial reporting process. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit concluded in accordance with ISAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if, individually or in the aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these financial statements. As part of our audit in accordance with ISAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statement, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than one resulting from error, as fraud may include collusion, forgery, intentional omission, misrepresentation, or the override of internal control. We also obtain an understanding of the internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the credit union's internal control. We also evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and related disclosure made by management. We also conclude on the appropriateness of management use of going concern basis of accounting and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether material uncertainty exists relating to events or conditions that may cause significant doubt on the credit union's ability to continue as going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report to the related disclosure in the financial statement, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the credit union to cease to continue as going concern. We evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statement, including disclosure, and whether the financial statement represents the underlying transaction and event in a manner that achieves fair presentation. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identified during our audit. Report on additional matters as required by the Co-operative Society Act. We have obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purposes of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been maintained so far as appear from our examination of those records, and the financial statements which are in agreement therewith give the information required by the Co-operative Society Act in the manner required. The engagement partner on this audit resulting in this independent auditor's report is Dawkins Brown, signed July 15, 2019, Crowwood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Brown, for that very comprehensive report. And I will now move into the Treasurer's report. And I must say it was a pleasure serving this credit union for the year ended December 31st, 2018. It was indeed a pleasure, and thanks to all for the support that I have garnered during that time. Now, moving on to the Treasurer's report, who is operating the device? Great. Okay, so we'll start with the economic outlook for 2018. And would have noticed that the economy would have grown by at least 2% for the financial year. And I will refrain from attributing that to NEP. The Bank of Jamaica also reduced its interest rates, its policy rates rather, which was reduced by approximately 150 basis points. No, that's a significant reduction. So that culminated in a final number of 1.75% at the end of December, coming from a high of 3.25% in 2017. Now, we'll see the implications of that later on. In terms of interest rates, that also trended downwards, and that was compounded by the Jamaican dollar continued depreciation. So we would have noticed that the dollar depreciated from $125 on average in 2017 to $128 in 2018, and that decline also continued into 2019. Another significant item during 2018 was also the potential changes, or the impending changes rather, in the regulatory framework, which we'll see the BOJ assuming oversight of the credit union movement. And we await that change, which will also have some significant impact for the way we operate going forward. So that's something we await with bated breath. And also of significance during 2018 was the IFRS 9 changes, which our president would have alluded to earlier, and our auditor would have mentioned. Now, the implications of the IFRS 9 changes are essentially the way we provide for our loans. And members, I don't know if it was mentioned in the forum before, but we all have a very important part to play as it relates to that, from the perspective that we will help our credit union to do better if we are more prudent with how we treat with our loans. So it is imperative that if you have a loan, you repay it on time, and if you know somebody who have a loan, you encourage them to do the same, because invariably, delinquency has a debilitating impact on the credit union under this framework. So, and of course, we will remember that we are all owners of the credit union, so I implore us all to be our brother's keeper. The mantra of the credit union is people helping people. So let us allow that to continue as it ought to. Okay, to continue with our profitability, despite all the challenges that we would have encountered and or faced, we would have noticed that our credit union continued to be profitable. And we ought to commend the management team for the increases that would have been made over the past 5 years. So if we look at our profitability from 2014 to 2018, you would have noticed that our revenues would have increased from roughly $4.5 million to just a tad shy of 600 million. So I think that deserves a round of applause for the management team. No, man. That sounds like it's $100 you just get. Do a little better than that, man. Thank you. All right? So that is essentially a summary of our revenue over the period. We would have made significant increases between 2014 and 2018. Now, on to the next slide, which shows our key profitability trends. You will notice that our total income to assets started at a high of 12.6% in 2014. There was a slight dip to 11.8% in 2015, and it essentially stabilized between 2016 to 2018 at just about 11%. Now, we are cognizant of the impact of competition on the financial market, and albeit we are a small institution, now, with the reduction in the interest rates, which I mentioned earlier, and the reduction in the government paper rate, invariably, the larger institutions became much more aggressive. And that invariably had some impact on the way all institutions performed within the market. Now, for us to only suffer just about a percentage point decline during that period, I think is also commendable. Because, some of us would have received emails daily from other institutions showing some various products that would have become available with some ridiculous interest rates between that time. So for us to hold our ground firmly, I think that's also commendable. Now, in terms of our operating expenses, we would have noticed that there was a bit of fluctuation in our expenses over the period. So we started 2014 at 7.2%. It went down slightly to 7%, went down even further to 6.8%, but then in 2017, 2018, there was a slight increase up to 7.7%, and we stabilized in 2018 at 7.1. Now, as you can appreciate, the movement, our organization requires quite a bit to sustain and to ensure that, your services are not being compromised, nor are our staff leaving. No, this is how it manifested itself in our records, all right? So this ensures that, our staff are properly paid, you are getting your dividends, the light and the cable won't cut off in the organization, nor the internet. Those things cost money. So this is how it is manifested. In terms of our return on the assets, we will realize that there was some bit of fluctuation in that as well. So in 2014, we had average return on asset of 2.5%. That declined somewhat in 2015 to 1.6, increased to 1.7 in 2016, increased to 1.8 in 2017, and went up to 2.1% in 2018. So that also is a positive indicator because it shows that we are making more money from the assets that we have. All right, so commendations again to our management team. Continuing to our asset growth. This also shows that our movement is doing very well, fellow corporators. So our asset would have moved from 322 million in 2014 to where we are now at 455 billion. Now, that is a significant growth over the period. And I think that also requires some commendation, especially in a very competitive and also restrictive financial market. All right? Moving along to our loans. No, this does not require much explanation. You would have seen that in 2014 we had total loans of 135 billion rather. No, in 2018 we had total loans of 518 billion. So what this suggests, fellow corporators, is that we are borrowing more, which argues well for the growth of our organization. And I implore you to continue to borrow and encourage your relatives and friends to borrow as well. No send nobody go to a commercial bank to borrow the money. Tell them to come to where? Me not here, man. Thank you very much. Because, and the fact, it's a simple fact, in order for the movement, in order for Manchester Co-operative, I keep calling it the movement, but let me just be very specific. In order for Manchester Co-operative Credit Union to continue to do well, we as the owners have to be who? The advocates of the organization, right? So we have to be the ambassadors for the organization, not just to use the products ourselves, but to encourage our neighbors and our friends to use it as well, because that's how the organization will grow. Clear? Agreed? All right. Thank you. So we'll move on to savings. Now, we'll also notice that our savings would have moved significantly over the period as well. So we would have moved from 200 million to where we are now, which is just over 360 million over the same period of time. So please continue to save with us and continue to encourage your friends to do the same. Moving on to our financial indicators, which essentially shows us how healthy our organization is. And if you look to the first column to your left, which are the targets, that shows us what we expect to achieve. The second column, which is 2018, shows us what we actually did. So for example, looking at our provisions for loan, the standard now requires that we provide 100% of our loans. So every time you default on a loan, the credit union have to ensure that the money is there to cover that loan. You see how important it is for you to repay your loan? Now, for 2018, we were required to provide only 88% of the value of the loan loss. And the reason for that was that for the previous years, as you would have seen in previous statements, we would have been over-providing to ensure that we were properly covered. So as such, when we did the assessment using the system that Mr. Rattray expounded to in depth, we realized that based on what we would have had in our kitty to take care of loans, we realized that we never had to put so much this time around. So commendations to the management for the foresight in making such a very proactive move from the get-go. Management on board, precisely. Looking at our institutional capital, the standard for the credit union movement is 8%. Anybody can guess where we are in terms of performance against that standard? All right, so clearly you're not reading. So we have exceeded that standard by almost 2%, by almost 200% rather. So we are at 17.3% when we should have been at 8%. Isn't that commendable? That sound like a well-run organization to you? Don't answer me, man. I think it is. All right, so let me speak for all of us. You know, some of us don't really want to answer. All right, in terms of our net loan to total asset, which is essentially what percentage of our loan, how does our loan compare to what we have overall in assets? And the standard for that is between 60 and 80%. Now we are well within that standard because we have 61% of our loans, or we have a standard, or an achievement of 61.1% of our net loans to total asset, which is within the standard and which is good. All right? In terms of delinquency, our standard is 5% or below. That we have a challenge with team in terms of, by virtue of us having a slightly higher delinquency rate of 5.8%. Now, again, I implore us all, this is something that we can control. Other credit unions are doing well at this by being, responsible in how we treat with our loans. So I urge us all, whenever you take your loans, please pay the loans on time, because that is what affects this matrix right here. And as I say, we are our brother's keeper. So let us continue to do that. In terms of our operating expense to total asset, the standard is 8%. And that's a maximum. And we are at 7.1%. So we are well within the standard. In terms of membership growth, Mr. South, you would have raised that question. Our standard for the financial year 2018 was actually 5%, and we did achieve the 5%. So despite how it may look, and despite the changes in the socio-economy, we are still achieving the targets that we have set as a very small organization. So commendations to the management and board on that as well. In terms of asset growth, we had a target of 11.5% growth in asset. Now, with all the challenges that we faced, we did not quite meet the target, but we came very close. So we had 11.5% as our target. We achieved 9%, which is just about 2% short of where we wanted to be, which in the grand scheme of things is minimal. And as it relates to our institutional capital growth, we had targeted 10%. Now, that also, based on the challenges we had in terms of providing for the IFRS 9 new provisions, and also the changes in, the loan market generally, we were not able to meet this target. So we fell short by just about 50%. So this is something that we'll be looking closely at this year, and with your help, we will achieve the target for next year. So to summarize our income and expenses, our total income for 2018 would have increased by 8.2% from 548 million to 593 million. So that deserves a clap. Not a baby clap neither. Right, so while we increased our income, we made efforts also to try to reduce our expenses or to maintain our expenses. So our efforts in terms of expenses would have reduced, our expenses would have increased just about by 17 million from 465 to 482, which is marginal given all things considered. As such, our surplus increased by what? 33.7%. That's all rounded up to 34%. So that is a very good thing given all that has happened. So as such, our undistributed surplus would have, right. So our undistributed surplus would have decreased, however, from 93 million to 79. And as I mentioned earlier, in our effort to ensure that we had enough money set aside for provisioning, etc., that decision would have been taken to ensure that, we shore up our reserves, just in case when we did the IFRS 9 calculations, we would have required. So that impacted on that. So as such, the available surplus for appropriation would have now been 172 million in 2018, which invariably doubled from 2017. So you had an increase of, well, it wasn't double, it was an increase of 117% actually. So despite all the provisioning that we did, we still made more money available for apportioning to the various business units that we needed to take care of. So to summarize our balance sheet now, next slide. So this shows essentially what we own, how the money was used, and what we are worth at the end of the day. So looking at our assets, liabilities, and reserves, which are really what we own, our institutional capital is currently 806 million, up from 769, which is a 5% increase. Our permanent shares increased by 10% from 116 million to 128. Our reserves, however, declined from 203 to 182 million, which is a 10% reduction. Notwithstanding, our undistributed surplus would have increased by 57% from 109 million to 172 million. In terms of how the money was used, that 1.2 billion would have been used for loans, investments, fixed assets, and other assets. As such, 303 billion of that amount was used for loans. So this amount was unlended to you, our members, to further your interests and further the interests of the credit union as well. We invested $1.8 billion to be exact, and we used 88 million to buy fixed assets. while 155 million was used to purchase other assets. So, taking away our total assets from our assets, liabilities, and reserves, we realize that the net worth of the organization is now $1.29 billion. Now, that also deserves commendation, team, because our net worth would have increased by 7.6% over 2017. So we're 7.6% better than we were last year. Give us a round of applause. Thank you. So, in conclusion, our credit union performed well for 2018. You know, notwithstanding, the management and board are not being complacent in the way we manage the organization, you know, and sometimes when you're on the outside looking in, you may not know all the exigencies that take place within, you know, so I admire the questions that are asked because it shows that our membership are very engaged and they want to know what is happening and they know what's happening. So Mr. South, Mr. Douglas and the others, Mr. Banton, whoever asked questions, you know, because I know some of us are shy and we were, sometimes when Mr. South asks a question, somebody in the back say, you know what, maybe that think the same thing too. But it's just that Mr. South had the courage to ask. So we always invite questions and we invite you to think about your organization because you are the owners, you know. And if you are the owners, you ought to have an interest in how your enterprise is performing. And we shouldn't really leave the questions to a few, but we thank God for the few who ask the questions so the rest of us can benefit from it, right? So we'll continue to look at avenues to earn as well, because as we made mention in our introduction that the economy or the economic environment has changed significantly. So whereas, you know, financial institutions used to make money from government people, those days are gone. So we are actively seeking to look at different methods and instruments that we can invest in to ensure that the credit union not just earn money from the loans that you take, but we have alternative means and alternative sources of income as well, given that we would have lost significantly from the T-bill and the government papers that we used to invest in. So I'd like to take this opportunity now, and I expect a bigger round of applause. I'd like to take this opportunity to big up and thank the management and the board for 2018 for taking some very good decisions. It required a lot of work. It required some long hours, but you know, the performance was worth it. And I'm proud to say that I am happy to spend those long hours to be a part of this result. So you're not clap me this time, you're clap the board, and you're clapping the management, and you're clapping the staff, because they said teamwork make the dream work, and that's a fact. No one entity or no arm of this organization could have enabled this kind of performance. So, you know, I want to recognize everybody who contributed, all the committees, the board, the staff, everybody who had an input in the performance. All right, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure the members are echoing their sentiments as well. Okay. All right, so at this time, I'd like to invite a motion for the adoption of the Treasurer's report. Okay, well, first, before, I was assuming there were no questions, given that Mr. South would have But for those who have other questions, I'd invite questions at this time. Okay, we have a person with a question at the top. Sure. All right, I don't know how the mic will reach you. Probably you want to. Okay, please go ahead, sir. Start with your name, please, sir. Introduce yourself.
Ellsworth Dixon. We're from Brooklyn National Bank.
Okay, Mr. Dixon.
I am a member of the credit union from early days. No, years one, when we hear right now, we look like the credit union is in a good position. All right. Real interest rate on the unsecured loan in Baghdad go down this year.
Okay. So what I... All right, so what I do know from time to time, the management and the staff of the credit union evaluate the portfolio and to see where opportunities are. Now, clearly, I know the management and staff always have the interests of the members at heart, and they always take feedback from the members as well. So my expectation is that, based on the changes in the market and based on the feedback from the members, that adjustments will be made accordingly to suit your needs. So you can, I would suggest you look out for programs.
Look out, me I demand if you go down, sir. The
you
economy look good.
Okay, great. All right.
Something.
So you have spoken, sir. We have listened, and we will continue.
It's really hype on the insecurity, but
Right.
ask that you go down.
All right. What you need to understand, though, sir, Mr. Dixon, is that unsecured loans essentially are one of the major exposures of the organization. It's very risky.
Yes, definitely.
No.
Most of we don't know land title if we get no loan.
There we go. So as a member of the credit union as well, I'm sure you would appreciate the fact that the management and staff have to be very cautious in how they lend on unsecured loans, because you see the delinquency that we just spoke about, a lot of the delinquency is spurned by unsecured loans. So if we can have a commitment from our members that we'll be more responsible in the way we treat with our unsecured loans in particular, then I'm sure the management will be more inclined to make adjustments. Because everything's a trade-off, You can't expect that the unsecured loan will become more favorable to you and put your interest, which is your ownership in the credit union, at risk. So we have to balance that somewhat. All right?
Try balance the good for you this time, sir.
Pardon me?
Try balance the good for you this time that you can go down.
Well, I know it has always been balanced as best as it could, but as always, there are opportunities to make changes. So over the next cycle, opportunities will be looked at to make those necessary adjustments.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes. My name is Joel Coke, and I'm from Advantage Best Enterprises. I joined this credit union about approximately in 2017, I think, yes. I have a suggestion for you. You could look at, in terms of how you look at how to structure loans and the requirements that members meet for loans. You could look at how Lisa Bell from the National Import-Export Bank of Jamaica, the Exim Bank, does their own, because they are very good and they help businesses to grow. And they have made, I think, in last year approximately in the figure about $18 billion in earnings from there. So that is significant. And they have different trade credit policies and different facilities to help their customers in a cooperative society. It would be members. So, you could look at ways through their organization how to being able to assist members and in terms of lending loans to them in a responsible way, because let me show you how they do it. They have also a policy where businesses have like say I am a car dealer and I sell cars. Instead of holding on all my money in the credit union, they would put a lien on the motor vehicles, and based upon the sales of the motor vehicles to customers from the car mart, they would use that to actually pay. The car mart dealer would actually be able to pay off the credit union. So there are different flexible ways how you can actually do it, that you can able to have more flexibility, that you can allow persons to be able to have more cash in the pocket, responsible to do investment, because even right now I'm conducting an investment in the area of car mart. Yeah. So as a result of that, I'm looking in that area right now myself. So the Exim Bank is a good one to look at. Okay.
All right, Mr. Coke, I invite you to speak with our business development manager, Mr. Gregory Mulgrave, right there, for that loan that you will be taking for that car mart. All right, so Gregory, please come and have a conversation with Mr. Cook right here. And thank you very much for that feedback, Mr. Cook. I wish to just mention, though, that the Exim Bank, their mantra might be a little bit different from us, given that their source of fund and their objectives are a little bit different. But notwithstanding, we will look at what learnings we can garner from them and incorporate in our processes to ensure that our members are better served. Definitely, we will look at those. Thanks for that feedback. Excellent feedback. Okay, ma'am, you had a question? Okay, please start with your name.
Yes, sir. My name is Pansy Taylor Wilson. The people in Mandeville call me the lady with the lamp because I always go around and help people. And the reason why I stand proudly today is because of this meeting. I attended this meeting about 2 or 3 years ago, and when I heard about the bank, I opened an account there, and the account lead to the partner, and the partner lead to the family indemnity plan. And here I am today. I'm a proud member. I've always been on time. And when I go out, I recommend other people to join the partner, and it is so smooth. And to God be the glory, great things He has done.
Amen, Pansy. After such a testimony, we just can't collect the offering and finish right about now. Thank you for that. And you see, it speaks to the advocacy which we require. Because I would have said it earlier, Pansy, and thank you for reiterating. You know, we own this organization, so it is incumbent on us to be advocates, to be ambassadors for the organization which we represent. So thank you for always being on. You have Golden Harvest yet? You have Golden Harvest? All right, check Gregory. Gregory can start it out for you here. No problem, man. You can get one more. Golden Harvest. Gregory, talk to Pansy. Lovely, lovely, lovely. You see, that is thrift, you know, which is what the organization is built on. So thank you very much for sharing, Pansy. Much appreciated. Any other, Mr. South?
Yes, this is Beresford South. This is not a question.
Yeah.
Recently, I must say, something happened in the credit union, and I was disappointed. I was fearful. But today, as I listen to you making your presentation, evolution continues.
Right.
And I think Manchester Co-op Credit Union is indeed in good hands. It's an excellent report.
Yes.
And what you have demonstrated here is that the credit union is doing extremely well.
Yes.
And I am proud. I'm really proud. I was a bit disappointed some time ago. But as I say, evolution continues.
Okay.
And sometimes we have to fall in order to.
Right. Thank you very much for that, Thank you very much for that, Mr. South. And I would implore you to share with us what the disappointment was, because, as always, we try to be a very member-centric organization, and what maybe a gross for you, maybe a gross for somebody else.
No,
so
it's just that you see, sometimes we talk about attrition. With people moving on.
Right.
And you say, well, wow, what are we going to do?
Right.
But when I listen to you making your presentation, somebody say, to God be the glory.
Great things He has done.
Yes.
Amen, Brother South. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions from this side?
Good evening. My name is Beatrice Wright.
Hi, Miss Wright.
I opened an account with Credit Union in 2004. I did not draw no money out of the bank book. I did not borrow no money from them until 2005. 17, the 15th of May, when I made this fashion with my hand, I went to close my bank book because I say I cannot work again to go continue show money. The brown lady, I know her face, I do not know her name. She usually work at the front desk as they do at the door to push going in. She was the one that usually helped me to write up my deposit when I am putting my money because nerve always troubling hand.
Right.
When I went there now in 2017, the 15th of May, me and a family, a friend, he said, I cannot close the bank book because if I close it, I won't be getting what I'm supposed to get. I said to her, what I'm going to get? I'm going to get a car or a house or more money in my book. She said, Mom, you cannot close the book. I weighed my mind and then I said, can I get $75,000? She said, of course. I said, write it up for me. When she write it up, she gave me the slip. She said, write name here. And I signed my name and the drawing slip. Did not go back for no more money. And I do not go back to put no more until the June, I went and I put $1,000. I went back to July, I put $2 more $1,000. No more I get, I go back and put. I get a text on my phone just like how I get this one now. When I went, I asked her, what is the text about? She said they are going to keep meeting in the villa, but she do not know exactly where the meeting going to be. That is in 2017. I said to her, I cannot go to the meeting because I had my meeting to go at that Thursday because we keep meeting on Thursday evening. She said, you have a ticket? I said, no. She said, you want one? I said, no, because I tell you that I'm not going to come to the meeting. Anyway, I was going to the doctor at the clinic. I walked there and I asked her, what was the meeting about? She said the meeting was members' meeting. That's what she said to me. The meeting was members' meeting. To my concern, last year, July, that is July gone here, the 2018, I was cleaning my teeth. It dropped out of my hand, slip out because the hand was so good, and it break. I went to them and I said, no, when has to go let me close my book now, because I need the money. When I went, I did not see that lady, the one that I used to. I wait to tell the bank now I go close. I see a short, thick black man come to the doorway. I go to him and I ask him for the lady. He said to me, how long now you come to the bank? I said, I come here from May the 17th. She said, he said, she not working here so again. She working round at the teller. But I have to go through the side door and look, it's not she. I went back to him and I said, it is not she. He said, you see a tall, dark lady over there. He told me the lady name, but I'm not going to call the lady name. Right. He said, you see that tall, dark lady over there? Is she working here now where the lady usually work? So I'm going to tell her that you asking her a favor. I said, yes. The lady come, and when the lady come, me and her, she tell how they do one time together. And I told her that I would like to close my book because I'm not working. She did not tell me nothing like what that first lady told me. She asked me, where is the book? I give her the book and she signed it up for me. When she signed it up, my money that me work and put in the book was almost $200,000 because when I am right enough to go join the book, the lady tell me about shares. But she didn't explain to me about the shares, how it go. So I split the money that I had was to pay the deposit. And I joined the shares at the same time. I do not get shares, and I do not get back my rest of money when I went last year to go close. All I get is $6,976. There is a tall, slim, dark man that there that is fighting me down and tell me that I have the paper here that telling me that when me collect the money, me get $100,000. I said no, I did not get $100,000. He tell me 10 times say $100,000 me get. I said oh no, I did not take $100,000. If I did take $100,000,
Right.
my book would close at the same time. And the woman said me couldn't close the book. Sir, the man said, we see the figure in it, up to the lady who will close the book for me. She
Right.
see the figure in it, but we don't know why figure for. $43,000 right underneath the $75,000 like a twin. He said at the time when me collect the 75,000, me take 43 out of the chairs. I say, oh no, good God Almighty, you tell lie for me. You tell lie for me.
All right. So I hear you. I realize that there's a discrepancy with your account based on what you're saying. So, Mrs. Richards, kindly just assist her, get her information and see how best we can help her resolve those issues. So we'll look into it for you, ma'am, and we'll ensure that whatever is due to you is
All I
given.
get out of my money is $81,000. It's $6,976 that the young guy gave me last year, and the 75 when me draw in 70.
All right. Let us investigate it for you, ma'am. We certainly will. Thank you for that feedback. All right. In the interest of time, any other questions before we? Okay, we have a question at the top here. Oh, we have somebody with the mic. Just allow me a second. Okay, please go ahead, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andre Mokai. I'm at the Manchester branch. As a supervisor, I would like to know if I still have to come in and pay my partner plan at the time that I at the date for the day of the week that I can do it, or because what happens is that at my work is sometimes demanding, and so if I agree to come in every Tuesday to pay my partner, sometimes I know I would miss it. That's why I didn't join the partner plan. So for me, what I would like to know, if in the near future, would you like have an account, would I able to top up my account, and you can take from my account when that when that date is something, because tell you the truth, I would love to join the partner and link it as my friend link it, but due to my demanding, sometimes I got called last minute for us, and the line. So I would love to know when I come back, who can I talk to?
All right. Thank you for that feedback. What I would encourage you to do is to set up a standing order, which you can visit any one of our customer service representatives, and they will do that. So it will be an automatic process. All right? Any other questions you have, please direct them to your customer service rep as well. All right, so we'll take 2 more questions in the interest of time. There's a lady upstairs who has a question.
Yes, my name is Angela Joseph.
Hi, Angela.
Yes, I put some money on a fixed deposit, but because there's like some more interest on it or whatever, I took it off and put it on a wealth accelerator.
Right.
But the first, because it just mature in June here. June gone. So when I look and see the amount I get on it, I say, no, but I took it off and put it on somewhere else I can get more interest on it. So I don't know. What should I do? Because the next maturity date is December. So I was going to wait until December.
All right, Angela, speak with other of our wealth advisors when you come by. They will assist you in putting your instrument on the right, or putting your money on the right instrument for your best benefit. Could you repeat that for me, please? I didn't hear the question.
I saw in the book here where you can borrow from it. Can you borrow from that?
Yes, ma'am. You can use that security for your loans.
Okay, I didn't know. Well, I will talk to. Okay.
All right. Thank you for your question, Angela. All right. Two more, Mr. Banton and one other.
Yes, sir. As the on financial report.
Yes, sir.
On fixed deposit,
Mm-hmm.
your figure don't come in your passbook.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask the credit union if they could give us a printout every quarter that we can know about our fixed deposit go. Because I don't see that forthcoming from, I had a fixed deposit and it's one time I get a printout there. So I asked if it could be every quarter we get a report on our fixed deposit that we can know where we are going, because, hello,
Okay.
debt, debt have no respect for nobody, and it can come any and any time. Thanks for that.
Okay, Mr. Banton, thank you. What we implore you to do, Mr. Banton, is to make a request from the credit union that you want your statements to be sent to you at X periods. Please, thank you. All right, one other question? Okay, so there be no other questions. I'd ask for a motion for the adoption of the Treasurer's report. Moved by Mr. Daly, seconded by Mr. Skeen. Alfred Daly. Motion moved by Alfred Daly, seconded by Stanley Skeen. Skeen. S-K-E-E-N-E. Okay. Appropriation. Okay, can we also have a motion for the adoption of the auditor's report? Moved by Karun Hyman. Moved by Karun Hyman, seconded by Mr. Banton. What's Mr. Banton's name? Stafford Banton. Seconded by Stafford Banton. Okay, so at this time, I invite you to turn to page 91 in your booklets. Page 91. Where, as the treasurer, I will present to you a proposal for the distribution of the surplus accumulated by the credit union as at December 31, 2018. So as at December 31, 2018, we had undistributed surplus of $172,663,740. And we are proposing that it be distributed accordingly. So $80 million to institutional capital, $2 million to social outreach, $15 million to capital expenditure reserve, $7.7 million to dividends at 6%, $50 million to general loan loss reserves, $1 million to disaster relief fund, $1.5 million to the Sydney Carter Scholarship, and $2 million to be appropriated to honorarium for directors and other volunteers. That amounts to a total of $159,200,000, and that would leave a balance to be brought forward to 2019 of $13,463,740. Are we in agreement with this proposal? Well, I move for this proposal to be adopted. Any seconder? Seconded by Mr. Hyman. What's the first name again, Mr. Hyman? Karun Hyman. Okay. Okay, so I would have moved already, so Mr. Hyman would have. Thank you anyway, Mr. Cole. All right, so the appropriations would have been done accordingly. Next, we are proposing that the maximum liability to be fixed, and the statement is, be it resolved that the maximum liability for which the Board of Directors may commit the Manchester Co-operative Credit Union 1977 Limited for the year 2019 shall not exceed a ratio of 12 times the capital and reserve fund. I move that this maximum liability be adopted as well. Any seconder? Any seconder? Mr. Skeen, Mr. Stanley Skeen, seconded. Thank you very much. So that concludes the Treasurer's report, the Auditor's report, the appropriations of surplus, and the fixing of the maximum liability. Thank you very much, all. Have a wonderful afternoon. I'll now turn over to our President for continuation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spence. Very good report. We now move to the Credit Committee's report, and I invite the Chairman, Mr. Raymond Harper, to present that report.
Fellow cooperators, special invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Okay, I'm here to present the Credit Committee's report, which is found on pages 92 through 96. Okay, by way of introduction, the credit union faced aggressive competition from other financial institutions and challenge from impending regulations. Manchester Co-op Credit Union Limited embarked on revision of policies and procedures and improving service delivery to our customers. Our loan portfolio grew by 15.77% during the year over year. Comparison of loans disbursed for 2017 over 2018. Now, the number of borrowers we had in 2018 was 4,131 persons. This grew by 714 to 4,845 in 2018. In 2017, we loaned a total of $1,252,731, $731,552.49, and in 2018 we loaned $1,490,706,2492, an increase of $237,975,072.43. That gave us a 17% growth in the number of loans that were accessed by members, and 19% growth in the dollar value 2018 over 2017. Now, the profile of the loans disbursed by purpose. Heading the list is home improvement, and this is in $1 million, right? $313.9 million, followed by motor vehicle purchase of $292.9 million, debt consolidation of $228.5 million, educational expense $174.1 million, and business investment $152.7 million. In terms of the loans disbursed by security, the top 5 loans, the Money Booster unsecured, top the list, $826.2 million, followed by registered title of $212.7 million, bill of sale for motor vehicle $186.4 million, share capital $153.4 million, and hypothecation $55.7 million. Loan growth initiatives. The special loan rate as low as 77.99% for unsecured loans, which we had at special, were converted to regular rates. The market value used for motor vehicle loans was moved to 0 to 5 year category. That was 0 to 2 previously. The credit policy was updated to improve the ease of business for our members. In terms of, although we spoke about the adjustments or the improvement done to our policy, members still required waivers, and we recommended 5 such waivers to the Board of Directors for approval. 3 for interest rate reduction, 1 for extension of the term limit, and 1 to percentage of market value to be reduced. And the value in money terms is there. The credit committee and subcommittee members do meet as required, and we ensure that at least a quorum is available to deal with the members' business. The subcommittee, all 3 persons must be present, so if one person is unavailable, then a member from the credit committee will go up and assist, and the details are there. In conclusion, the members of the Credit Committee wishes to thank you, our valued members, for choosing Manchester Co-op Credit Union 1977 Limited to be your financial partner. We certainly appreciate the sterling support given by the Board of Directors, all committees, the management team, and staff members. We do appreciate your valued support, especially the credit staff. I want to say a special thanks to Mrs. Vivian Grant and Mr. Paul Grant, who served the committee, and they will be retiring. We do hope that in the future they will make themselves available to serve in whatever capacity they can. That brings me to the end of my report. Are there any questions, any comments? Okay. Since there are no questions, no comments, will someone move for the adoption of the Credit Committee's report? Name? Mr. Joel Cook, seconded. Name? Ms. Pansy Taylor. Thank you very much, fellow cooperators. That was quite easy. All right.
Good afternoon, fellow co-opters. I now invite Mrs. Ann Rowe from the Supervisory Committee to present their report.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, great. Let me again apologize for the absence of our chair, Mrs. Ruthann Smiles Michael, and I'll be deputizing for her. So this is the report from the Supervisory Committee for the year 2018. And as we are all aware, the Jamaican economy has been experiencing falling interest rates, increased regulatory requirements, instability, and we continue to operate within a hostile financial climate, right? So despite the demands of the Bank of Jamaica regulation and IFRS 9 implementation, as well as the change in senior management, the organization continues to implement operational strategies and remain an extremely viable entity. So the BOJ regulations will impact on reporting responsibilities, requiring more stringent and more rigorous corporate governance. The credit union remains committed to its members and continue to create opportunities and minimize threats by scanning the environment to identify members' needs, hence creating novel products and services to attract existing and new members. Now, you, the members, have entrusted the Supervisory Committee with the responsibility to safeguard the interest or safeguard your interest. We do this by ensuring that the organization is pragmatically managed. The committee's ultimate objective is to ensure that the Board of Directors and the management team serves the interests of the members as well as safeguarding the resources entrusted to them. Now, in an effort to achieve the given mandate, the Supervisory Committee embarked on various activities which include a series of independent and objective audits that assessed the reliability and authenticity of the financial and operating functions. The committee facilitates the Board of Directors with monthly activity reports to aid in effective decision-making. Now, if you look on the screen, you'll see the attendance of committee members for the year in review. So just scan, and you'll see number of meetings, possible meetings, attendance of members, number of meetings attended by each member, numbers for which members were excused, and where persons were absent. Now we move to the audit areas. Human Resources Management Audit. A sample of personnel files were selected for review. We looked at all new hirees, terminated staff, and employee entitlements. These were all reviewed. The findings revealed that employees' files were adequately maintained and met most of the best practice requirements. However, the policies and procedures that should govern the Human Resources Department did not exist or were not up to date. And you would have heard the chairman of the board allude to revision of policies and so on. So management has subsequently developed or implemented the policies that were recommended. Other gaps or lapses identified were communicated to management, who has committed to implement measures to improve the processes. We looked again at estate payable, and the objective of this audit was to review. This review was done to establish compliance with the deceased member's policy to ascertain whether the transactions on the members' accounts were authentic and to ensure that the credit union exercised segregation of duties in the execution of the various transactions. Findings. No discrepancies were observed for the accounts that were settled. However, issues were identified that prevented disbursement of funds to beneficiaries in a timely manner. Recommendations were made to improve the timeliness in which estate accounts were settled. The other area would have been delinquency control management, and the objective of this audit. This exercise was undertaken to ascertain whether the actions taken in regard to delinquent accounts were in accordance with the established policy and procedures. The audit findings revealed that there were several lapses in the maintenance of the members' files, and these were communicated to management. Management accounted the lack of adherence to manpower shortages and the system being manual. The department was strengthened by employing an additional staff with improvements to follow with the implementation of a revised delinquency policy. We then look at the petty cash, and the objective of this audit was to verify the authenticity of petty cash transactions within the period, and to verify that the balance as per the petty cash voucher agreed with the balance as per the general ledger. No deficiencies that were observed were also communicated to management, and commitment has been made to resolve the issues. Dormant and inactive accounts. The objective of the dormant and inactive accounts was to verify whether transactions were authentic, properly authorized, and done in accordance with the stipulations of the operations policy. The audit concluded that there was general conformance with the applicable policies and procedures. Recommendations were made to management based on the exceptions observed and should be addressed through the revision of the operations policy. Compliance audit, and that deals with the KYC, that's know your customer, or new members' accounts. The findings. The audit findings revealed general compliance with the credit unions, anti-money laundering, know your customer, and Proceeds of Crime Act regulations. However, there were a few exceptions for which recommendations were made to management. The exceptions observed were satisfactorily addressed to prevent reoccurrence. The audit objectives were met. End of data listing. The objectives of the audit were to ascertain whether transactions were authentic, to establish whether the relevant documents that were generated correlated to that of the system, to ensure that all required documents were furnished by members. Now, the findings from this audit revealed no exception. New loans. The audit of loans revealed general compliance with the loans policy and established procedures of the credit union for the granting of loans. Several discrepancies were identified and communicated to management. Management has since adequately addressed matters identified and are working to improve the operations. The objectives of the audit were also met. Dividends and interest on savings. The dividend payment made in 2018 was reviewed to ensure that distributions were agreed to the respective approved appropriation of surplus. A sample of permanent shares and interest-bearing accounts were selected and verified. Interest, dividends, and withholding taxes were also recalculated to ensure correct amounts were paid. The audit revealed no discrepancies. Payroll overtime. The objective of this audit was to ascertain whether overtime was accurately calculated and approved by the relevant personnel, and that applicable procedures were adhered to. The findings revealed that overtime was not assigned a budgetary allocation, and that there are no adequate measures to compare the extra hours worked against productivity of staff. Management has committed to minimize the overtime completed by staff. Cash counts. The objective of cash counts were to ensure that cash was properly accounted for and that there were adequate controls for cash management. We did ATM cash counts, treasury cash counts, and teller cash counts. Observation: the organization's controls conformed to the required policies and procedures of the credit union and other regulatory bodies. We did expense review, and the objective: expense review was completed to ensure that expenses that were part of the general ledger were legitimate, that supporting documentations were attached and agreed to the relevant expenses, and that payments were made to legitimate suppliers. The audit revealed several minor discrepancies and anomalies which were communicated to management. Members' loan trial balance was the next one, and the objectives of the loans audit was to verify that the terms and conditions of approved loans were in accordance with the loans policy and to ensure compliance with the credit union's general policies and procedures. The loans that were selected for review was found to satisfy the requirements of the loans policy, except for one discrepancy that was subsequently addressed. Then the policy review. The following policies were reviewed to ascertain that they were in line with best practices and that adequate controls were in place to ensure conformance. We looked at the employee handbook policy, whistleblowing policy, employee assistance program, social media policy, capital management policy, nominating policy, succession planning. So in reviewing the new succession planning policy, some issues that were noted: the succession plan for change in leadership was noted, and these were communicated to management with various recommendations to ensure seamless succession among management. We looked at the capital management, and this policy was reviewed to ensure that the policy was up to date and was being adhered to. Observations were discussed with management, who acknowledged the concerns identified by the Supervisory Committee, and they are currently working to address by adequately updating the policy. Nominating policy. While reviewing the nominating policy, a few observations were made and presented to the relevant personnel. The recommendation was made that this policy must always be used as a guide by the members of the nominating committee and should be understood by all the committee members. Value for money review. The customer service training undertaken by the HR department with the aim to improve the customer service capabilities was reviewed to ensure that the credit union decisions consider the economic efficiency and effectiveness of projects undertaken. Based on the responses of staff members after the training, it can be noted that the cost that was expensed was not in line with the quality of the training that was received. The Supervisory Committee recommended that trainers should be given clear guidelines as to the areas that need to be improved. The credit union should ensure that value for money is received in undertaking trainings. Debit service management. The objective of this audit was to ensure that all procedures were adhered to relating to the management and control of debit card services. Findings: several areas of concern were highlighted, and management has employed measures to ensure guidelines are established and implemented. Blank check review. The blank check review was conducted to ascertain if adequate security measures were in place for the governance of blank checks. Findings: it was witnessed that security measures are in place. However, the committee has observed that there was a need for improvement on the current security measures that are in place. Specific recommendations were made for management's action, and the management has committed to ensure that the issue identified is fully addressed. Bank reconciliation. The objectives of these reviews were to ascertain the timeliness and accuracy of bank reconciliations completed by the accounting department. Findings: minor deficiencies were observed, and recommendations were advanced to include formulation of an accounting manual for the accounts department. Management is actively documenting several policies to aid in the improvement of the organization's operations. Acknowledgement. The Supervisory Committee, along with the audit team, wishes to express our sincere gratitude to the Board of Directors, the Credit Committee, management and staff for their support and cooperation. We remain committed to ensure that members' interests are safeguarded and that the organization remains a viable option for its stakeholders. To you, our fellow members, we would like to express our profound gratitude for having allowed us the opportunity to be stewards of our investments. We are committed to ensuring that our collective goals are realized. Thank you. If there are any questions, we will take them at this time. There be Mr. South. Thank you. You may go ahead, sir.
Beresford South. Yes, I think that report was fairly comprehensive. And actually every year when the supervisory report is presented, I always have one question. And I read it, looking out for it, and I found it. But you in your presentation, you corrected that, but it's not in the report. I am speaking of the point here where you did your findings and you reported it to management and you left it there, but you came to the AGM. And I was always suggesting that you should get a feedback now and find out what management did. So you did it again, you did not say, you presented it to management and you left it there. But in your presentation, you told us that you actually got a feedback from management. So I think you need to add that to the report because the report is not carrying what you presented.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Noted, duly noted, and we'll seek to improve on that. Okay, may I? Oh,
Good night. I see where you have payroll overtime. Is our members still working overtime?
Sir?
Yeah, I just want to know.
Could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Andre McCoy.
Andre McFarlane.
McCoy. Yeah, I see where you have payroll overtime review. I want to know if that our staff members is still working overtime for this for this present year. You could give an answer or just want to have an idea.
Yes, I would imagine. Yes, they still work overtime. Remember, we open on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And the regular working week is Monday to Friday. And so when they work on a Saturday, that is overtime.
Oh, thank you very much. One more before I go. I see we have blank check. I want to know what is blank checks all about.
Okay, blank checks. The checks that we write to pay our suppliers, those check leaves are received from the bank with which we deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these blank checks are ordered and we keep them in storage.
Oh.
So when we need, the checks are numbered sequentially, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mm-hmm. And so when we need to use checks, we take them out in sequence. So at any point in time, if there's any discrepancy, any fraud or so on, we will know because a check may be out of sequence. So we write the checks in sequence. So if a check is out of sequence and a bank gets it, we'll know that that check was not yet been used.
Oh. Thank you very much. Just that don't want to read it to somebody else that doesn't understand what I'm reading. So thanks.
Okay, sir. Okay. We need to move on. If you have a quick question, quickly. We use BNS and NCB. Can we have a motion that the report be accepted? Name? We didn't hear the name. Ronaldo Spencer?
Yes. Benaldo, B-E-N.
Benaldo?
Yes, Spencer.
Spencer?
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you,
miss.
sir. And Joel Cole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rowe, for presenting the Supervisory Committee's report. We are moving along, and I crave your indulgence to remain, because we have lovely prizes to give to you shortly. We have a very important item on the agenda to deal with, and that is elections. So I now move to item number 5, which is elections. I invite Mr. Curtin Douglas to come forward and present the report.
Fellow cooperators, invited guests, Board of Management, a very good evening. In the absence of the chairperson for the nominating committee, Reverend John Smith, I present this report. In accordance with Article 12, Rule 62I of the Rules of Manchester Co-operative Credit Union, 1977 Limited, which states in part, not less than 30 days prior to each AGM, the Board of Directors shall appoint a nominating committee of 3 members, of which not more than 1 may be a member of the existing Board of Directors. The Board of Directors appointed said committee, which comprised the following persons: Reverend John Smith, Chairman; Mrs. Paulette Sanderson, Member; yours truly, Member; and Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy, Staff Liaison. The nominating committee hereby recommends the following nominees for the vacant positions. From the Board of Directors, just before I go through that, I remember Mr. Griffiths had a query about the blank. Wherever you see the blank areas, those persons are continuing. Presently serving, Mr. Claude Rattray, retiring, and nominated is Miss Althea Campbell. Mrs. Althea Scott Jones, retiring, and renominated. Mr. Nicholas Spence, retiring, nominated. Mr. Alexander Bourne, continuing. Reverend John Smith, retiring, and Mr. Ashley Scott is nominated. Mr. Stalin Insang, retiring, and is renominated. Mrs. Diana Tomlinson, retiring, and Mr. Stanford Hastings is recommended. Mrs. Darcia Roach, retiring, but where you see Mr. Robert Foster nominated, instead I asked you to put Mr. Beresford South at that point. What happened just after the books went to print, Mr. Foster stated that he was not any longer able to go on. So we asked Mr. South to serve instead. Presently serving, continuing, Mr. Cleveland Robinson, continuing, Ms. Marsha Deere, continuing, Mr. Jeffrey Sharp, continuing. From the Credit Committee, presently serving, Mr. Raymond Harper, retiring, renominated. Mr. Clive Dunkley, continuing. Mrs. Vivian Grant, retiring, and Mrs. Claudette Gale Foster is nominated. Mr. George Slowly, continuing. Mr. Paul Grant, retiring, and Mrs. Elaine Brooks is nominated. A Sub-Credit Committee, presently serving Mrs. Helen Campbell-Wint, retiring and renominated. Mr. Nigel Reed, continuing. Mr. Christopher Time, retiring and nominated. A Supervisory Committee, presently serving Mrs. Ruth Ann Smiles Michael, retiring, and Mrs. Patrina Bailey Green has been nominated. Ms. Michelle Dowse, retiring and nominated. Ms. Elaine Bailey, retiring and nominated. Mr. Glenroy Griffiths, retiring and nominated. And Reverend Kingsley Andrews, who had completed a term for Ms. Colleen Walfall, is retiring and nominated. For the Sub-Supervisory Committee, Mrs. Ann Gillette Rowe, retiring and nominated. Mrs. Delia Brown Dawson, retiring and nominated. And Mrs. Claudette Griffiths Mackenzie, retiring and nominated. Okay. Could you turn with me to page 106? Where we'll have a profile of the nominees. And as I call the name of the nominee, could that person stand? The first nominee is Miss Althea Campbell. There she is. Ms. Campbell is a project and research office assistant responsible for the planning and executing of conferences and workshops. And she is currently employed to Church Teachers College. She has been involved in various management roles within the education sector. These include Knox Community College, where she worked in the area of marketing and public relations, the University of Technology, where she was instrumental in using her public relations skill to assist in the transition of the College of Arts, Science and Technology to the University of Technology, UTech. She holds a master's degree in corporate communication from the University of Bournemouth, England, and a bachelor's in public relations from University of Exeter, England. She serves her community as a member of the Jamaica Red Cross. She enjoys culture and communication, traveling, natural history, as well as public oratory. Ms. Campbell has been nominated to serve on the board of directors. Okay, Ms. Campbell, could you come to the front by popular demand? Second nominee is Mr. Astley Scott. Mr. Astley Scott is the managing director of Life Solutions Company Limited, which is a Jamaican distribution company for the solar tube line of energy-saving products, such as tubular daylighting devices and solar-powered ventilation extractor fans. He previously worked at Alcan Jamaica Company, now Windalco, in the 70s as an instrument electrician. He was promoted to the position of Senior Reliability Technician, a position he held until he left the company in 1998. He also has over 35 years' experience in non-destructive testing, welding inspection, lifting equipment, and pressure vessel inspection. Mr. Scott is a senior certified welding inspector by the American Welding Society and worked as a welding assessor and test supervisor for the Hart Trust NTA. He possesses a certificate in instrumentation technology from the University of Technology. He has also served as director of Kirkvine Co-operative Credit Union Limited, Manchester Co-operative Credit Union 1977 Limited, and the Jamaica Co-operative Credit Union League Limited and Credit Union Fund Management Company. Mr. Scott has been nominated to serve on the board of directors. Mr. Stanford Hastings. Mr. Stanford Hastings has over 35 years in commercial and investment banking with a wealth of knowledge and experience in the local and international finance industry. He has held several leadership positions in notable organizations such as Scotia Investment, Black River Hospital, Scotia Bank, BH Enterprises Limited, National Commercial Bank, Barclays Bank, and Mellon Bank, NA. Mr. Hastings is well known as a strategist that can execute cost-cutting strategies while implementing processes and procedural efficiencies to enhance member experiences, the sale process, and compliance. He has held several positions, including customer service representative, credit officer, sales executive, investment banker, branch manager, and chief executive officer. His years of experience at COK Sodality Cooperative Credit Union has given him a wealth of knowledge of the credit union movement. Mr. Hastings is a past student of the University of West Indies and Sheffield Hallam University. He holds an MBA in Banking and Finance from the Mona School of Business, UWI Mona campus, a BA in Financial Services from Sheffield Hallam University, certificate in Information Technology from the University of Sheffield, and a certificate in Marketing from Parson Cross College. In his downtime, Mr. Hastings enjoys playing football and golf. Mr. Hastings has been nominated to serve on the board of directors. We return to page 108. Mrs. Claudette Gale Foster. Is she here? There? Okay, she isn't here. For over 30 years, Mrs. Claudette Gale Foster has worked for the Tax Administration of Jamaica, TAJ, in the capacity of Senior Collector of Taxes, Principal Collector, Collector of Compliance, and Deputy Collector of Taxes. Her impressive work experience developed special skill sets in supervisory management, project management, analytics, and coaching. Her passion for accounting and compliance led her to excel within the government service. Mrs. Gail Foster holds both a diploma in human resource management and an associate's degree in accounting from the Management Institute for National Development, MIND. During her professional career, Mrs. Gail Foster has also gained numerous TAJ training and development certification, such as public speaking and supervisory management. She's an avid volunteer in her church community of the Assemblies of the Firstborn Jamaica Church International and performs the duties of a Justice of the Peace for the Clarendon chapter. She has also served on the supervisory committee of Manchester Co-operative Credit Union 1977 Limited. Mrs. Gail Foster has been nominated to serve on the credit committee. Mrs. Elaine Brooks. She's coming. Mrs. Elaine Brooks joined the National People's Cooperative Bank of Jamaica in 2008. She has over 21 years of experience in the financial services sector in both credit administration and retail lending. She has worked extensively in the field of credit at various levels since 1999. She honed her skills at Citizens Bank, now known as Sagicor Bank, before joining the credit department at the National People's Cooperative Bank of Jamaica. Mrs. Brooks holds an MBA in finance from the University of Phoenix and a BSc in business administration from the University College of the Caribbean. She also obtained a postgraduate diploma in education and training from the Vocational Training Development Institute. She has a history of contributing to the development of her community and volunteered her services in the past as executive member of Macintosh Memorial PTA, public relations officer of PTA Vice President of Porus Infant School. Mrs. Brooks has also served on the Credit Committee of the Manchester Co-operative Credit Union 1977 Limited. Mrs. Brooks has been nominated to serve on the Credit Committee. Mrs. Patrina Bailey Green. Mrs. Bailey Green has worked for both private and public sector organizations of Jamaica in the capacity of senior accountant, tax consultant, internal auditor, and adjunct facilitator. She has written publications such as Managing Growth and Profit in Challenging Times, and co-authored the coursework called Accounting Fundamentals and the Professional Accountant. Her work experiences have developed special skills in supervisory management, project management, use of the audit software, caseware, QuickBooks, and public speaking. Her passion for accounting and compliance led her to become a Chartered Accountant Fellow and a Registered Public Accountant of Jamaica. Mrs. Bailey Green holds a diploma in business administration and an accounting major from the University of Technology, a Bachelor of Science degree in applied accounting from the Oxford Brookes University in England. She's an avid volunteer in her community and performs the duties of a Justice of the Peace. Mrs. Bailey Green has been nominated to serve on the Supervisory Committee. Reverend Kingsley Andrews. Reverend Kingsley Andrews is the Managing Director of Kingsley's Auto Supplies for the past 28 years. He has been a chaplain for the Manchester Police Division for over 19 years. His responsibilities include assisting with the recruitment of new members, sitting on the panel that does administrative review, as well as selection of the LASCO Top Cop. He is a Justice of the Peace as well as Lay Magistrate of Jamaica, Manchester chapter since 2009. He has been the chairman of the Shiloh Kindergarten Basic School for the past 25 years. Reverend Andrews has been an ordained pastor for over 27 years and is currently the overseer of 9 churches within the organization he serves. He is also the elected chairman for the organization since 2016. He was a former volunteer at the Manchester Co-operative Credit Union Limited and served from 2010 to 2016 on the Supervisory Committee, where he served for the last 3 years as chairman and assistant chairman for the Joint Committee. Reverend Andrews is a marriage officer for the island of Jamaica with over 21,000 marriages performed. He is also a trained mediator and a family counselor. He is married with 3 beautiful daughters and 2 grandchildren. Reverend Kingsley Andrews has been nominated to serve on the Supervisory Committee. And as I told you before, with the withdrawal of one nominee, Mr. Beresford South has been asked to stand in the gap. Mr. Beresford South is a former teacher at the Homewood Technical High School, former history teacher, former chairman of the now defunct Christiana Potato Growers Cooperative, and a past chairman of the Supervisory Committee. So those members are the nominees for this year. I now invite Ms. Cheryl Brown from the Co-op Department to conduct the elections.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so I realize that all the new nominees have been, their profile has already been read and you have seen them and you are maybe satisfied with what you have heard of them. But first of all, I must ascertain whether or not there's a quorum in here. Do we have 100 persons in here? Do we have 100 persons in here?
Yeah, I think so too. It seems as if we have more than 100 persons in here. Before I start, however, I'd like to, on behalf of the Registrar of the Department of Cooperatives and Friendly Society, Mr. Errol Gallimore, and staff, do congratulate you on your 43rd Annual General Meeting and say, well, I sat and I heard all of the reports, and I can't say that the credit union is not moving forward. So I must say that they are doing some things right. All right? So let us proceed into the matter at hand, which is the election of officers. And you have heard the nominating committee report. And of course, after having heard the nominating committee report, the rules of the credit union is that the returning officer should ask for nominations from the floor. If there are no nominations from the floor, then the persons duly nominated will be elected on the approval of the members, right? So we have the board of directors, we have the credit committee, the supervisory committee, and subcommittees of the credit and supervisory committees. So we'll begin with the board of directors, and you have heard the names, and I don't think I need to repeat it because it's also in your books. So are there any other nomination from the floor for the board of directors? I'm going to ask for nomination from the floor 3 times. And if I don't get any nomination from the floor for the 3 times that I asked, then I will ask for the members to approve these persons have been duly elected to serve on the board of directors. So are there any other nomination from the floor for the board of directors? Going once? Going twice? I do have to ask if there are any other nomination coming from the floor for the 3rd time. Okay? There be no other nomination from the floor. May I have a mover and a seconder to duly elect these persons? Could you please state your name clearly? Repeat that. Stanley Skeen is the first, the mover. May I have a seconder? Joel Coke. Joel Coke is the seconder. All in favor? Anybody against? Anyone abstaining? Okay, the ayes have it. And we move now to the credit committee. And of course, as I said before, the names are in the book. And I will not repeat the names. So I'm going to ask 3 times if there are any other nomination from the floor. Are there any other nomination coming from the floor for the credit committee? Going once? Going twice? And for the 3rd time, are there any other nomination from the floor for the credit committee? Okay. May I have a move and a seconder to approve these persons? May I have somebody moving to duly elect these persons? Stafford Banton. May I have a seconder? Clifton Price. All in favor? Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? Okay, the ayes have it. We now move to the subcommittee of the sub-credit committee. Are there any other nomination from the floor for the sub-credit committee? Going once? Going twice? And for the 3rd time, are there any other nomination for the sub-credit committee? Okay, may I have a move and a seconder, please? Name, please? Joyce Skeen. Joy Skeen. May I have a seconder? For the sub-credit committee. State your name, please. I didn't hear. Rose Forrester. All in favor? Anybody abstaining? Okay, the ayes have it. For the supervisory committee, are there any other nomination from the floor? Going once? Going twice? Going thrice? May I have a move and a seconder, please, to approve? Angela Joseph. Seconder, please. Renaldo Spencer. Benaldo Spencer. All in favor? Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? The ayes have it. For the supervisory committee, any other nomination from the floor? Going once? Going twice? Going thrice? May I have a move and a seconder, please? For the supervisory committee, can somebody move to accept these persons?
Andre McCoy.
Andre what?
McCoy.
Okay, thank you.
McCoy.
May I have a seconder?
Alvin Williams, please.
Pansy Taylor, you said?
Alvin Williams.
All in favor? Anybody against? Anybody abstaining? The ayes have it. As is customary, though, the board normally asks the members to give them approval to elect persons from the board for alternate delegates, alternate and delegates to the league. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to give the board permission to elect the persons from the board to represent you members at the league and other affiliated organizations. Stanley Skin. Seconder, Joel Coke. Thank you. I'd like to remind the board of directors and the other committees that within 10 days of this meeting, they are required to submit to the Department of Cooperatives and Friendly Societies and other fora that they may be represented, the names, address, and telephone numbers, email address, TRN, of all the members on the board, the supervisory committee, the subcommittees, and the credit committee. So this information should be submitted to the Department of Cooperatives and Friendly Societies and any other fora that they are affiliated within 10 days of this meeting. Also, within 14 days of this meeting, if it is that a member decide that they no longer want to be on the board or any of the other committees, within 14 days of this meeting, that information should be provided to the department along with the replacement for that person. Okay? Thank you very much. Continue to enjoy your night or evening or day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Douglas, for presenting the report, and to Mrs. Brown for conducting the election. And I would like to congratulate all the persons who have been elected to serve on the various committees, board, sub, and the others. I hereby invite the newly elected board members to join those on the platform. Newly elected board members, will you please join join us on the platform. Let us give them a big round of applause, all those who have volunteered to serve. We are happy for you. We now move to any other business. And at this time, I will invite the General Manager to make presentations to the volunteers who are retiring or who have retired from the various committees. Madam GM?
Afternoon, fellow members of Manchester Co-op. Night. All right. So we're making special presentation to volunteers who have given us their time and effort in making Manchester Co-op what it is today. I'm actually going to give the new kid on the block the mic so that he can do the presentation, and I just shake hands and smile and try and look pretty. Yes. All right, so I will welcome to the podium our finance manager, Mr. Orlando Dawson.
Good night, fellow cooperators. So we will be awarding some of our volunteers, and the first one is Vivienne Grant. Oh, she's not here, and we'll reserve it for her. Mr. Claude Rattray. Diana Tomlinson. Okay, so the following persons will be receiving awards as well, but they are not in attendance today. They are Dacia Roach, Ruth Ann Smiles Michael, Joan Smith, and Paul Grant. They're not in attendance today, but we recognize them for their contribution throughout the period.
On behalf of the volunteers who are retiring, I say thanks to the organization for recognizing our service through this tangible certificate of appreciation. We treasure it, and it was a pleasure for us to have served this noble institution. I now move to announcements. Or is there any other business? Is there any other business? Is there any other business?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I think I see two hands. So
Yeah.
I will take two
Yes,
to other business.
In moving around, I got some feedback. One concern was that some members are not very vocal. So they're asking if in future some paper could be somewhere that they could write their questions on, and those questions be read. Another was that, in following up on what the gentleman asked about the unsecured loan, one member was querying if members who get unsecured loan and have done well in honoring their obligations over time, if in subsequent years their interest rate could be lower than the regular unsecured.
Yes, we have different rates, and based on your credit rating, your performance, how you pay back your loan, there are considerations that will benefit you.
Mr. Chairman, two quick questions. When I was growing up, my mother told me one thing, and I have that ribbit in my head until now. My mother said to me, young man, please, when you go, learn, don't beg. Because if you beg and you don't get it, you're going to feel embarrassed. So I am not begging anything anymore. Why I say that? At all the credit union meeting couple years now, I am begging, I am pleading, if the mobile could come back to New Forest, that we could have an easier access to the credit union. Make I pour it out. I meet with the new manager. I invite her to New Forest. She's supposed to respond to me. Until now, I don't get a response. Sir, I zip my mouth on it. The last one I'm coming with. The AGM will be held in August or in May coming.
I cannot tell you when it's going to be held yet. I cannot tell you that yet. In terms of the mobile unit coming back to New Forest, it has to be able to garner the level of interest in its usage. We are still looking at it, and I would ask you to mobilize the members there. It has to be profitable.
Yeah, I do that, sir. Even now, the school down there is not a junior high school, it's a high school. I spoke to the manager on it. There is a spot we get down there that the mobile bus could park, and honestly, I am disappointed. I am totally. You have very good members down there now. Right?
Okay, we are going to take it into consideration.
Thank you very much in advance, and I zip my mouth on that
we
one.
will report to you.
Okay.
Just to respond to Mr. South's first question about writing questions for those who do not want to ask them. Yes, that's not a, sorry, Mr. Douglas, that's not a bad idea. And we can go further than that. We can set up the technology so that you use your smartphone and you write the questions and send it straight to somebody on the platform, whether the GM or the finance manager. That is a possibility. Let's use technology as well.
Okay, finally, this is words of commendation. My name is Delva Marshall, and I'm a member of the Christiana Branch Credit Union. I'd like to big up Christiana Co-operative Credit Union, that they have the best team.
Christiana Branch.
And I would like to find out who employ or interview the other persons at the other credit union. And no offense, but I've been to other credit unions, and the level of customer service that I get at Christiana, you'd step into Christiana Credit Union, down to the gardener knows your name. There is a relationship, there is a family relationship. There's something about Christiana Credit Union. And I will not leave here this evening without saying thumbs up and A+, excellent customer service is the best in the island, and I would encourage the other persons to take a leave. Take something out of the Christiana Credit Union.
Good, thank you very much.
You.
We have heard that testimony, and by extension, it's Manchester Credit Union as well. We are happy for that. Christiana is blazing the trail. Thank you. Okay. Good commendations. We now move to item 7, announcements. There is no announcement. Okay, so we move to item 8, vote of thanks. And soon coming up is the exciting section, prizes. I now invite Mr. Jeffrey Sharp, Director, to move the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fellow cooperators, good evening. I think we've had a pretty good evening so far. And the curtain is about to close on the 43rd annual general meeting of our credit union. I don't want to wear your patience, and so I'm going to be very brief. I want, however, for us all to leave with a strong belief that our credit union is safe, it is productive, and it is sound. And we have our management team to thank for that. Our general manager and her hard-working staff, our volunteers, the Board of Governors, the Credit Committee, and the Supervisory Committee. I'm sure you'd all want to put your hands together and say thanks and acknowledge the kind of support that they have been giving to our credit union. I must thank briefly our general manager and her team for all the plans that they put in place for this annual general meeting. I must also thank Director Marsha Deere for conducting the activities in what I consider to be a very useful and productive convention. I must thank the presenters, Mrs. Hewitt, Mr. Carlton Brady, and Mrs. Carol Martin. If you missed it, you missed a lot. I must thank our president for guiding the afternoon running into the evening's deliberations. He ably did that. But not only has he done that, but I must also say thanks to him for the quality leadership that he has displayed over the last year. If you want to clap him because he deserves it. Must also thank our treasurer, Mr. Nicholas Spence, and our auditor, Mr. Dawson, for presenting the financial report in such a language that we all could understand. Thanks to Mr. Harper for presenting the Credit Committee report, and Mrs. Ann Jones, deputizing for her chair. Mrs. Ann Jones Rowe. Thanks to Mrs. Roseanne Henry from CUNA. CUNA is one of the bodies that oversee the credit union operations. And also Ms. Monique Davis. Thanks to Mrs. Shirley Brown, is it Miss or Mrs.? From the Department of Cooperatives, and also for conducting our elections. Thanks to Ms. Fiona Reynolds from the League, another of our oversight bodies. Thanks to the Gulf View Hotel for making the facility available to us. I know it's not for free, but we are quite comfortable. And thanks for the sumptuous meal that we received. Last, and perhaps most important, thank you, the members, for coming out this afternoon, leading into this evening, to make your presence felt. It shows how important your credit union is to you. I hear Mr. Spence says, despite the rain. And when I saw the rain, I said, Lord, meeting is out today. But you have braved it, you've come, and what you are saying to us is that your credit union means much to you. Thanks for your support. Thanks for the spirit in which you shared. Thanks for the togetherness. The 43rd Annual General Meeting is at an end, and we look forward to the 44th in 2020. Thank you very much.